The Buds Candidate. You arrive at Coronado with your head shaved and your name written in black marker on a white helmet. You are one of 185 men standing in rows on a gravel quarterdeck at 0500 hours, and the instructors are already in your face before you have set down your bag. They don't care who you were before this. The wrestling scholarship, the college degree, the top score on your physical fitness test. None of it transfers here. What they want to know is the one thing they can't measure in any screening. How long before you break? And they start finding out immediately. First phase is 7 weeks. You run the soft sand of the Silver Strand in boots, 4 miles before breakfast, in a time that gets shorter every week. You swim 2 miles in the Pacific with your swim buddy. Water so cold in November that your fingers stop feeling like fingers and start feeling like weight you're carrying. You do log PT with a telephone pole shared by 6 men, 200 pounds of wet wood lifted overhead until one man's arms fail and the whole team starts over. The rule is simple. One man drops it, everyone pays. You learn to want to quit less than you want to not be the reason your teammates go back to the beginning. Hell Week starts Sunday at midnight. An explosion outside your barracks window, ice water from a fire hose, instructors with bullhorns. You get about 4 hours of sleep total in 5.5 days. By Tuesday, a man in your boat crew holds a conversation with someone standing behind you. When you turn around, no one is there. He doesn't know this. He keeps talking. You run more than 200 miles during those 130 hours. You carry your boat on your head until the skin above your ears splits. You sit in the surf zone at midnight in January until your body stops shivering and the medical officer checks your pupils. Of the 185 men who showed up with you, maybe a quarter or a third of the class makes it through. The rest will walk to the brass bell mounted near the grinder, drop their helmet in the sand, and ring it 3 times. Each ring means the same thing. I am done. The instructors put donuts and hot coffee next to the bell. You can see the men who quit sitting in folding chairs, warm, eating. You are still wet. You are still cold. You are still running. You do not touch the bell. You tell yourself it's because you're different from the men who quit. That isn't why. You don't touch it because the moment you decide not to touch it keeps coming, and you keep making the same decision. Not strength, not speed, just a decision made again and again in 10-second intervals for 130 hours. That's all it is, and it is everything. The first tour. You graduate buds, complete SQT, earn your trident, and report to your first team. The pin is gold. The pin weighs almost nothing. You carry it like it weighs 40 pounds. On your first day at the team, a senior chief with 11 deployments looks at you for approximately 2 seconds and hands you a gear bag. Your job for the next several months is to carry things, clean things, and listen. You clean weapons that aren't yours. You carry equipment that belongs to men who are not going to thank you. You do not complain. The men around you earned the right to hand you that bag, and your opinion of the arrangement is not a factor. Your first platoon has 16 men. The chief has 12 years of combat and reads terrain the way other men read faces. One night, he stops the element 40 meters short of a target building and says the structure is occupied in a way that wasn't in the brief. 30 seconds later, the windows light up with automatic fire. You never ask him how he knew. Your first firefight lasts 9 minutes. When it ends, your hands shake. The chief sees this. He says nothing. You find out years later that his hand shook too after his first one. He told you later because by then, you needed to hear it. You are not given decisions yet. You are given positions. Cover the door, hold the corner, watch the street. You do these things until they become automatic, then until they become invisible, until you stop thinking about the mechanics and start reading what's actually happening around you. That transition is what the first 2 deployments are teaching. Nobody says this out loud. You have to figure it out by showing up. The Specialist. 2 deployments behind you. You're in E5 now, a Navy Special Warfare Operator 2nd class, and somewhere in the last 18 months, you crossed a line you didn't notice crossing. You specialize. Every SEAL does. Yours is breaching. You're the man who opens doors. Sometimes with a ram, sometimes with a shotgun, sometimes with C4. The math changes based on door material, frame construction, and gap. Get it wrong, and your teammates die. You don't get it wrong. The tempo is 18 months of workup for every 6-month deployment. In those 18 months, you shoot more than 80,000 rounds. Reloading becomes something your hands do without instruction from your brain. By your 3rd deployment, you understand something the recruiting video never mentioned. The work is mostly waiting. 90% of a deployment is the same range drills, the same compound, the same bunk. The raids are a fraction of the total hours. They are the reason for all the other hours. They are not most of the hours. In your 3rd deployment, you enter a compound 40 minutes past midnight. Intelligence says the target is alone. He is not alone. There are hostages in the back room. The target grabs one hostage and puts him in front of him as a shield while he reaches for a weapon. Your teammate fires. The target goes down. The hostage is not physically harmed. You write that phrase in the after-action report. Not physically harmed. You think about the word physically for a long time after that. The senior operator. E6. 5 deployments. You were the senior enlisted in your element on most ops, the one who translates the officer's order into actual movement for the men behind you. You are better at violence than you have ever been. You are worse at almost everything else. You can clear a 4-room structure in under 30 seconds, and you cannot sit through dinner with friends from home without tracking every exit in the restaurant. You check the perimeter of the house at 2 a.m. and don't remember getting up. You are better at the job and harder to be around, and those two things are not unrelated. Both ankles are wrapped before every run. Your right knee makes a sound on stairs that team medic says is not ideal, but not immediately dangerous. You take ibuprofen the way civilians take vitamins. The medic knows. He doesn't report what he doesn't have to report. The Chief. E7. Chief Petty Officer. Officers plan. Chiefs make plans real. Your platoon lieutenant is 26, graduated Annapolis 3rd in his class, smart and motivated, never been shot at. Your job is to make his plan survivable without making him feel like you're rewriting it. When his scheme of maneuver is going to leave the rear element exposed at a bend in the alley, you pull him aside before the brief. You offer the fix as a question. What if we stage the assault element here instead? He presents it as his revision in the brief. You don't correct this. You don't need credit. You need the mission to work. The one that stays with you happened on your 4th deployment. A breaching charge failed on the 1st attempt. The target opened fire through the wall before you could reset. Automatic rounds through plasterboard and dust. One of your operators took a round through the thigh, femoral artery. You dragged him behind cover and applied a tourniquet so tight he screamed. You called the QRF while continuing to direct the assault. The target was neutralized. Your man survived after 9 months of rehabilitation. The mission was classified as successful. You wrote the after-action report that night on the helicopter with his dried blood cracking on the backs of your knuckles. The report was read by 11 people with the appropriate clearances and then filed. The world went to sleep not knowing anything happened. That used to feel wrong. Now, it's just part of the job. The family life. This is not a rank. This is what happens between the ranks. This is the part no one talks about until it's over. You got married at 24, 3 months before your 2nd deployment. By the 4th deployment, she had stopped asking when you'd be back. She moved through the house like a woman who had arranged her life to function without you, because that's what happens after long enough. She kept a calendar on the refrigerator, not for herself. Your son, 8 years old, counted the days on it every morning before school. Your daughter was 6 when she made a drawing in class of her family. The assignment was to draw the people who live in your house. You were not in the drawing. Not because she forgot you, because you don't live in the house. She answered the assignment accurately. The accuracy of it was a thing you sat with for a long time after lights out on your next deployment. The divorce came after deployment 5. She called it irreconcilable differences. The difference was that you kept going and she had stopped being able to wait for you to come back whole. The divorce rate in the SEAL community is cited at various numbers. Some say 70%, some say higher. The men who stay married either chose differently or got lucky or both. You pay child support. You have the kids 14 weekends a year when you're not deployed. Your son is learning to drive. You found out on a phone call. He didn't mean to make it feel like news. The Senior Chief. E8. Senior Chief Petty Officer. Fewer than 4,000 sailors hold this rank across the entire Navy. In the SEAL community, a fraction of that. You coordinate training cycles, deployment schedules, equipment readiness across multiple platoons. Work that keeps people alive so far upstream from the operation, you rarely see the results. You deploy less. When you do, you stand in a tactical operations center watching drone feeds of targets you would have been kicking doors on 5 years ago. You miss the simplicity of the door. The problem was always the same. Open it, clear what's behind it, next room. The problems at this level are never that clean. 3 men in your extended community have died by suicide in the last 2 years. One you mentored from his first platoon. You taught him wind calculations for long-range shooting. You stood beside him in his wedding photos. 3 weeks before he died, he told you on the phone that things were getting better. You believed him. You needed to believe him because the alternative required something you weren't sure you could give. At his memorial, his mother looked at you the way people look at someone when they're deciding if you're partly responsible. You don't look away. You stand there because showing up is what chiefs do even when it's the only thing you have to offer. The funerals get heavier every year. The combat ones and the other kind. The other kind are worse. The world outside the community doesn't understand why. That gap is part of what makes them heavier. The Master Chief. E9, the highest enlisted rank in the United States Navy. You are the senior enlisted advisor to a flag officer. You sit in Pentagon conference rooms where people who have never been shot at make decisions about operations carried out by men you have known for years. You choose your words with the precision you once applied to breaching charges. Enough force to open the door, not enough to collapse the wall. You sign condolence letters. You sit in living rooms with Gold Star families and look at photographs of men you sent into situations where dying was a realistic outcome. Sometimes a mother asks if her son suffered. You tell her no. You don't always know if that's true. Your body is a record of 28 years, 2 knee surgeries, a lumbar vertebra fused from thousands of parachute landings, tinnitus at around 4,000 hertz, constant, a tone you've stopped noticing the way you stopped noticing an air conditioner, a shoulder rebuilt with titanium after a fast rope insertion went wrong in year 16. You've been married twice. The second survived because she was an ICU nurse who knew how to love someone through it instead of waiting for them to come back whole. Some nights she makes coffee and sits with you without asking what you're thinking. She knows you won't say. She sits there anyway. This is not a small thing. The career. The ceremony is small, 50 people in a team room. No politicians, no cameras, just operators, chiefs, and the people who chose to stay. Your commander reads a citation. Technically accurate, emotionally insufficient. 11 deployments, 8 combat rotations, a Silver Star for carrying a wounded teammate 300 meters under fire while returning fire with your secondary weapon. The citation doesn't mention that you were also hit. You didn't know until the adrenaline fell and the medic pointed at your arm. They build a shadow box. Your trident, your rank insignia, your patches and coins. A career reduced to objects behind glass. The shadow box goes on a wall in a house near the water because you've spent your entire adult life within a mile of the ocean and don't know how to exist without it. You wake at 0500 hours every morning because 28 years of muscle memory don't recognize retirement. You run slower now, knee brace, earbuds loud enough to cover the ringing, the same route along the water. Young operators call sometimes. They ask about deployments, about marriages, about the darkness that settles in during the quiet months. You tell them the trident is the most important thing they'll learn and the most dangerous thing they'll carry, because it will become their whole identity if they let it. Most nod. Most don't really hear you. They're 25. They're invincible. You were too. You tell them anyway. The reset. Right now, somewhere on the beach at Coronado, a class is forming. 180 men in the dark before dawn, shaved heads, white helmets, names in marker. They are looking at a brass bell. Every one of them has told himself he will not touch it. They've watched the documentaries, read the books, done the preparation that seemed impossible 6 months ago. They don't know about the doors at 0200 hours, the 9-minute firefight and the shaking after, the compound with the woman and the 2 children, the calendar on the refrigerator, The drawing their daughter will make at school. The phone call that ends with a teammate saying things are getting better and you believing him because believing is easier than what the alternative asks of you. They don't know about the tinnitus, the fused vertebra, the funerals, the combat ones, and the other kind. They don't know the trident is heavy in ways that have nothing to do with its weight. They are standing on that sand, 180 of them, every single one certain they are different, certain they will be one of the ones who make it. Most of them are wrong, some of them are not, and the next video on the screen shows what comes next.